So every day I spend my time drinking wine, feeling fine, waiting here.
Hi guys, it's Lydia. Today I'm going to be doing a Q&A video. On my last video, I asked you guys to leave comments if you had any questions for me. So same goes for this video. If you guys have any questions that you would like me to talk about, then make sure you leave them in the comments. One thing I haven't mentioned in my videos before is that I have an email address, lydiasfight@yahoo.com, and that is totally open to you guys to send me questions, ask for advice, or if you just want to talk or just want to reach out for whatever you want, you guys can reach me through there. I didn't want to answer any of these questions lightly, and I wanted to be able to give the best responses that I could, so I actually messaged a few of my friends, asked what they thought would be good responses to these. Shout out to my friends, thank you for helping me answer these questions. All of the questions that I answer in this video, I will write them out in the description and put the time that I answer that question beside the question. So you can just look at the description and see all the questions that I go through in this video, and then just click on the time so that you can navigate the video and watch the questions that you want to see or maybe that you asked, so that you don't have to sit through like 20 minutes of a bunch of questions that might not apply to you, and you can target like what you really want to be watching. So check that out in the description, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. The first question is, will you ever do videos on social anxiety or depression? Yes, actually. So I've had a lot of problems with anxiety, depression, and up till this point my channel has mainly focused on eating disorders, but I am going to be expanding that and we'll be making more videos about anxiety and depression also. Another question that was asked is, at what point does someone with an eating disorder decide to recover? Like, what triggers recovery? I asked one of my friends this question, and I think she had the perfect response, so I'm literally just going to read what she said. I don't believe there is one exact moment. I believe that it is a decision that has to be made many times, sometimes many times a day. For some people, it begins when they are forced to make a change. For others, they may realize that there are things they want more than their eating disorder. For some, it is the threat of death or being forced to stop doing what they love. There are many times and reasons why people decide to recover. I think this is a process that is unique to each person. I agree 100% with that. I don't want to generalize here, but I'd say for most people, there's no like moment of a light bulb going off and them going, oh my goodness, I want to recover now. It's a very ongoing thing. There's not just one moment. Like my friend said, you have to decide to recover like many times a day. The last question that this person asked was, do you think the media can really trigger body image disorders, and to what extent? I don't think they can be the sole cause of like an eating disorder or a body image disorder. The reason for someone having that is within themselves. It's not like an external thing. So I think it really can trigger them and make them worse, but I don't think it can really cause them. I've said this before, but the media is everyone's highlight reel. Their best angles, their best everything. So you never know what was going on behind a picture or what they did to look like that or things like that. You just never know. So I think the media can really distort our perceptions of ourselves and of other people and just set very unrealistic standards. I actually saw a cool article the other day. It was like people taking body photos and what they actually looked like versus what they looked like in the photo, like when they were flexing or whatever. I thought it was really cool, and I was just like, wow. I found it pretty impactful, so I will link that in the description. Another question is, when and how did you realize that you had an eating disorder, and did you ever try to deny it? Literally right when I started engaging in unhealthy behaviors, I told my counselor about it. Literally right away, she's like, you know what, I think you've got some disordered eating going on here. So right from the start, it was presented to me as, you might have a problem, you might have an eating disorder. I was diagnosed with an eating disorder, but in my head, I was never sick. I never had an eating disorder because I wasn't skinny enough, because I didn't look sick enough. So it took me a long time to really believe that I had a problem. I didn't ever try to deny it because I guess I knew there was something wrong with what I was doing, but I didn't see any reason why I should have to change it. I didn't think it was a problem, but I got that other people saw it as a problem. And this actually leads into the next question, which is, were there friends who encouraged your eating disorder or who made you think you were doing the right thing? Throughout most of my eating disorder, it's been very orthorexic. A lot of my eating disorder was obsessing over how healthy food was, how good it was, how pure it was, how clean it was. Everything had to be healthy. That was more the focus of most of my eating disorder. From the outside, everyone saw that as good, except like maybe my parents and therapist. But all my friends were like, wow, I wish I could eat like you. Wow, you go to the gym so much, that's awesome. Like, wow, you look great. You're doing awesome. I wish I could eat as healthy as you. It was just reinforced until I didn't like think it was a bad thing at all. I never had a friend who encouraged my eating disorder, but they all kind of encouraged like the behaviors that I was doing. Another question is, do you have any advice on how to stop comparing yourself and also not obsessing over every little thing? I could do an entire video on how to stop comparing yourself in comparison, so I'll actually do a whole video on that. If you want like kind of tips for that right now, then make sure you send me an email, but in the future few weeks I will definitely put out a video on that. And then also advice on not obsessing over every little thing. Something that always helps me when I get very into the day-to-day stuff. This is kind of broad, but just in general, just thinking about the big picture and my long-term goals really helps me like take me out of the moment, because it's like, yeah, you know what, I want to go traveling, I want to go off to university, I want to become a nurse and help other girls. It helps me be like, yeah, you know what, the fact that I didn't do as well as I wanted on a quiz today, that's really not a big deal in the grand scheme of life. Or the fact that I had dessert today and I'm feeling so guilty about that really can't impact me and change my body. I find just taking a step back and trying to look at things really objectively and rationally, which can be very hard in the moment, really helps me in just trying to look at the big picture and what I want with my life long term. Another question is, should I tell my best friend about my social anxiety and depression, and how without being scared? Definitely, I think it could be super helpful to tell your best friend, especially if your anxiety and depression is impacting kind of your everyday life and maybe impacting your friendship or impacting what events you go to. It would probably be very nice from her perspective to know like what's going on and why you maybe don't want to go out all the time or whatever it is, and about like if you're scared to do it. And it's totally natural and just part of the process to be nervous. It's hard to tell people about these things, so it's totally okay to feel scared. Maybe go for coffee with her or set up like a safe place where you can do it. Maybe plan out what you're gonna say or have something you could read to her, maybe write her a note. Yeah, I think it could be super beneficial to tell her, because then you could get her support too. Should I see a doctor about my social anxiety and depression? I think you totally should. Like, it's the fastest way to get a referral to a mental health clinic or a mental health provider. And I think that's very important. It's really, really hard to move past from mental health issues by yourself. 90% of the time, people need some sort of support to help them. Again, it might be hard telling them, but I think it's like pretty important that they know what's going on with you and that you get the help that you need. Is telling someone about my mental illnesses the only cure for it? Okay, again, I'm just going to read what my friend said because she said it perfectly. No, it's not the only cure. In fact, telling someone is not actually a cure at all, but I think it is a very important step in the process, as nearly all mental health problems thrive in silence, and it is nearly impossible to get better on your own. Eating disorders and depression in particularly really thrive in silence, and for all mental health disorders, you do need the support, and you can't get that if you don't tell people. So it's not a cure, but it will help you out a lot. How can I stop worrying so much? What really helps me, again, is just trying to stop and step back and away from that train of thought and just look at the long term and my goals and what I want out of my life. Another thing is just to do some yoga, deep breathing, or mindfulness. It's really hard to function when you have very high levels of stress, so taking care of yourself should be your first priority, because then you'll be able to function better and you'll feel a lot better. Another thing you could do is talk to someone, talk to a professional, talk to your best friend, your parent, someone that you can trust that maybe can help you out with them, or it just feels good to get it off your chest and know you're not alone. And then also sometimes for anxiety disorders, depending on the severity, medication might be helpful. That would be something to talk to your doctor or psychiatrist about. How can I enjoy things I used to love and be motivated? It's really hard when you have depression because you just lose all motivation and enjoyment out of things. So for me, the main area of my life I saw that in was soccer. I just stopped enjoying soccer. It became really torturous for me and I just lost all motivation to do it. I think there's two things that you can kind of do when this happens. The first one is just not stop doing it. If that's what you love and really want to do, just keep doing it. It's really hard to stay motivated, but I think it's very valuable for you to not give up on the things that you used to love and can someday love again and find enjoyment in them again. And the second thing, which is what I ended up doing, is just trying to find something new that you also love. This ended up being super beneficial for me. As I've talked about, like I played a lot of soccer. Through my depression and anxiety and just a bunch of things, I just kind of lost my enjoyment for it. And I tried for a while to get it back, but I was kind of done with it. And so I tried to find something new and I started boxing and I just love it. So if you're really trying hard and can't like rediscover that enjoyment in those things, maybe try something new. What to do when I start cutting on my arm. It's not too deep, but it's noticeable. Okay, no matter how deep or how severe or how serious you think it is, if you're self-harming, you just have to talk to your doctor or a medical professional. It's a sign of like other underlying issues and that you're really struggling and you just really need to get help. My counselor once told me an analogy when I was having problems with self-harm. It's like you lock a gate, And every time you self-harm, you're taking a step back and a step back and a step back from that gate, and it just gets farther and farther away. When the time comes that you decide you want to stop cutting, the farther away you are from the gate, the harder it is to get back to the other side of it. Like, the more you do it, the more addictive it becomes and the deeper into the hole you fall. So just really try and reach out and get some help and stop it before it becomes too habitual or relied upon. Why, when I gain weight, does it seem to only go to my stomach? Okay, so this is genetics. Like, every single person's body is different, differently shaped. You will store fat in different areas. So for me, I think that's my hips, and I have a really hard time accepting that, but gotten to the point where I don't like it, but I know I can't change it. So it might just be your genetics. But another thing is that if you're underweight and you're weight restoring, when you first are restoring weight, it goes around your vital organs. Your body's first priority is to keep you alive. So it will place the fat that you gain around your vital organs. So it will be around your torso, which is really hard to deal with because that's where a lot of girls have insecurities, but it will redistribute around your body once you've maintained your weight for a while and you're at a healthy weight. But when you're initially weight restoring, it will go around your vital organs. Why am I so scared to tell my mom about how I'm feeling? I think it's totally normal and natural to be scared to tell someone how you feel, but I think it is important for your mom to know how you're feeling. Like, I don't know your situation, but she could be your #1 support and really help you out if she knows what's going on. So to answer the question, I think it's totally normal to feel nervous to tell your mom about how you're feeling. Can dizziness be from anxiety or depression? Dizziness is like a direct result of anxiety for sure. When I was panicking a lot and having a lot of panic attacks, I fainted a lot and my blood pressure was really low and I was so dizzy. That's gotten so much better, which I'm really grateful for. But yes, it can be a direct result of anxiety. How can I stop overthinking? It ruins my concentration and remembering things during class time in school. I will also touch on this in the video where I talk about how you can stop worrying. I think this is a bigger thing to address that I'd like to talk more about, so I'll focus on it in that video. Again, if you want like kind of a more immediate response, then just send me an email. How do you deal with being ashamed of the type of the eating disorder you have? This is something I've actually had a lot, just because my eating disorder is seen as a good thing by so many people. What I've found helps me is just taking away the label of my eating disorder, like taking away the exact name of it and just saying, yeah, I have problems with an eating disorder, as opposed to I have orthorexia, I have anorexia, or whatever it is. How do you deal with weight gain in recovery and your body changing? This is huge, and this was very hard for me to deal with too. For me, what really helped was just time. Like, I literally just had to wait it out and not try and lose weight. Literally just get exposed and desensitized to the body that I was in. So really, I think just time. You just really have to wait it out because you will get used to it and it will get better. Body image is one of the last things to come in recovery, and it's also one of the hardest to deal with. Definitely getting rid of any old clothes you have that don't fit you anymore, and any old pictures that you have of like the way your body used to be. Just getting rid of those is, I think, totally necessary. And then going and buying new clothes that you feel good in, I think that can really help you feel a bit better in yourself. And also just recognizing that this is what your body needs. Your body's goal is for you to be at your healthiest, and the way you look to an extent is your genetics. How do you reincorporate exercise into your recovery in a healthy way? So what I had to do was just stop doing that kind of exercise that I'd been doing in my eating disorder. So for me, that was mainly running and going to the gym. You have to set up very contained exercise, so discuss it with a dietitian, but a certain amount of time per day and a certain amount of times per week. So for me, it started at like 10 minutes 3 times a week, and then it gradually got more and more as I was able to handle more and do it in a healthy way. And a big thing is switching up the kind of exercise that you're doing, trying out new things. Like, I tried boxing and it was great. Big things are doing exercise socially, so doing things with friends and making sure you're staying within your limits. I think those are all pretty key. And it can be really, really hard to stop exercise, but sometimes what's necessary to get over compulsivity in exercise is just to cut it out completely and stop exercising for a certain amount of time until you think you can handle it again and do it in a healthy way. How to cope with the feeling of being full. This has never been like an area I've really struggled with. Like, it makes me very uncomfortable at times, but I don't have a very hard time with it. But one thing that I always found really reassuring is that your hunger cues never lie. If you're hungry, like physically feeling the hunger, you're hungry and your body needs food. But your fullness cues are very off. They're really not accurate, especially after you've been engaging in an eating disorder and you're trying to recover or while you're still in your eating disorder, your hunger and your fullness cues are very off. Your fullness cues stay off for a long time and they can be changed by a lot of things. You would always try and make yourself feel full by drinking water or engaging in behaviors or whatever. If you're eating to your meal plan and eating a normal amount of food, that's totally okay. And it's normal to feel full, and it's okay to continue to eat when you're feeling full when you're in recovery, because your fullness cues are off. Also take into consideration how much water you drank before the meal, because that can really influence your hunger and fullness cues. How to stop binging. I will do a video on how to stop binging. I went through a period of having a really hard time with binging. A good workbook called Brain Over Binge, so I would definitely recommend that. How to deal with everyone else's focus on being thin, diets, weight loss, society, magazines, etc. Something that I've had to realize and tell myself over and over again is that I have an eating disorder and other people don't. Other people can skip snacks, other people can exercise a lot, other people can lose weight and do whatever they want, but I can't because I have an eating disorder. And my focus right now is not those things. My focus right now is getting mentally and physically healthy, and so I can't focus on those things. So for me, that was a really helpful distinction. Another thing, just really just surround yourself as much as you can with recovery focused positive people. So check the Instagram accounts you're following, what you're reading, what you're listening to, the people you're talking to, what you're watching on TV. In today's society, it's impossible to completely avoid the topic of diets and health and beauty and whatever, but you can really minimize it and set your focus on other things. And the last question for today is how to transition back to school after being in treatment. There's a dog hiding behind me. What to tell people, how to handle the return to normalcy, etc. This is literally exactly what I've been doing this last month, and it's very hard. I 100% feel you right now if this is what you're going through. It's very difficult. Initially, not taking on too much, not going back to a full course load, not signing up for a bunch of activities, not agreeing to a bunch of social events, just starting out small. Starting out with one class, adding another one, then maybe adding an extracurricular, or start out with just seeing friends. I found just really adding it in stages as I worked back up to a normal level of life was helpful. And what actually happened to me is I added way too much at the beginning, thought I could do it, and so I've just been having to take it off, and now I'm doing much less than I probably would be doing if I had started adding it gradually, because I just got overwhelmed and burnt out. What I told people when I was getting, when I first came back and everyone's like, where were you for the past 8 months? I told people, what I said to people that I wasn't very close to was just that I did online school for a semester, and then I left it at that and changed the subject. What I told people that I'm a bit closer to but didn't want to tell the full reason, I just said I was having some health problems and needed to take some time away from school. And then most people, I think only one person ever asked, oh, what health problems? But everyone else kind of took the hint and was like, oh, okay, I'm sorry to hear that, I'm glad you're back. Most people don't really pry, and if they did pry, I was just oh yeah, just nothing in particular, just some health problems. And then I just changed the subject. You just kind of dance around the subject and just kind of say the same thing, oh yeah, I was just sick, I needed some time off. And it's really not their business, so don't feel an obligation to tell people if you don't want to. Alright, so those were all the questions that I can answer today. I'm sorry, I know this video probably got a little bit long, but I really wanted to answer as many as I could. So I really hope that this helped you guys and that you found it beneficial. Again, if you have any more questions, just leave them in the comments and I will answer them in my next Q&A video, or you can shoot me an email. I love you guys so much. I really hope you're doing well, and I'm sending you lots of love. I will see you guys later. Bye guys!